Hello and welcome to Bitcoin Live. On today's show, I run down Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, the top macro cap alts, along with every member request that has hit the last show update, as well as my email inbox. From my last update, I talked about the bottom being in, and I still feel like that's true because the deviation of price below where I had talked about, it did not last long. You have a short period of time with it being bought back from the 53K level. I had talked about 2 alerts ago how I thought dollar cost averaging from 54K to 57K would prove to be fruitful. And to judge that, you've got to give this market some time to unfold. Patience pays. It's something that I preach alongside discipline. Right now, the smart money algo is starting to potentially gear up for another re-long signal. And what you can see here is the last time the algo went long over here at this 45-ish level, and you had the confluence of the moving averages with everything together and a rising cyan trend, rising moving averages, and we're starting to see that again. So should we get price above this 58.8 level and ultimately close above 60, 61? Those are the levels I'm talking about as requirements for us to go test all-time highs in December. And then I believe the extension of this cycle will last a little bit longer than I previously anticipated, just due to the way that the market cap structure has changed, the new players that are involved in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the other macros. Understand changing those viewpoints as the chart unfolds, as the fundamentals are updated. And as you see here, I put some notes about the weekend price action and what happens. You've got 45 minutes to go as I'm talking right now until the United States markets open. You've got Morgan Stanley buying more GBTC shares, ton of adoption metrics happening for this last leg of the bull cycle. And as you can see here now, you've got an upward sloping 20-period moving average on the 8-hour. It tells you that the recovery is in place. All 53 to 69K is a giant range right now. And that's why I preach level by level price action. I think that BTC should be gearing up to go test those levels. And we just got to be ready for what the market throws us. I think Ethereum now is really just the leader of everything. You can see here it doesn't deviate from its 200-period moving average. That 4,000 support is now the new springboard to push into $5,000-$6,000 Ethereum. With Ethereum BTC, I believe that has consolidated so much in a range. The ETH BTC chart will show you that it has built a firm enough base that I don't think that my thought process of going into the 60,000 sat range, 66,000, 68,000 is really going to happen at this point. Ethereum just has too much backing for it. The chart looks good, and you've just got to be willing to adjust that viewpoint. So that's my adjustment for Ethereum. I'm looking at it here to push into this level of 4,500 and then come up into that 4,700 dollar range. Now looking at ETH BTC, I talked about you just can't, that the chart doesn't lie. Sometimes you have things that go from a long perspective and then they come back short, but it just never took out that gray box here, which tells you that the strength of ETH is a little bit more prevalent than BTC. Now it's riding its 20-period moving average. You've got the 200 fully flattened out, and that's really key in allowing this to move forward. So taking out resistance of 77,000, 78,000 sats, and ultimately 80,000 sats will go back to my original thought from June, July, that taking that resistance out will now allow for 0.1 ETH BTC ratio to unfold. And the support here of 69,000 sats, we'll call it 70,000 sats, really is the viewpoint that you have to understand moving forward. Now, as I kick into gold, you had gold start to break out and had some volume overhead supply right here, pushing it down along with the US dollar rallying. To me, this chart is still long and it provides another entry for opportunity. 50 and the 200 are meeting with price right in that area. So with the confluence of price 50-200, it can provide a springboard to come and test now this $1,800.50 level in the coming days. And so I still hold my gold position. I like it moving into the month of January, and I will let the chart unfold and do its thing as you have a rising cyan trend and a potential re-signal underway. Okay, looking at AVAX, And since going long here at the third week of October, it has been on a really strong parabolic move. So it did take out that 20 period moving average, and you've got a downward slope, which to me tells me that this needs to build maybe a small base in here before trying to attempt to take out that 0.0021 level. As long as it stays above this 18 level, so that's what I'd be viewing for this. It looks to potentially bounce off of here, and AVAX has been on such a tear. Now moving over to DOT, you see DOT tries this breakout and fails. And when it takes out the support of 6,500 sats, that tells me you have to look for a new layer of where this is going to unfold. And right now you've got this price action here. So if it doesn't hold 6,000 sats, let's call it, and the support is 6,037 on the algo, then you've got to move to retest the 5,500 Satoshi level. And this now needs to really get back above this resistance of 6,500 sats for it to really make its move higher. And getting above 65 is the level, and ultimately 7,000 sats is what DOT needs to outperform BTC. Moving over to XRP, it's a stay away because you've got a downward sloping 200, price in the bearish phase with price below the 50 and the 200. That equals the bearish phase. Okay, looking at Solana, and Solana had this range as well. It was building from here to, let's say, here where support is at the 0.0032 level. Now it's about 10% above that, with it starting to trade above its 50 period moving average. So if price can stay above this resistance and turn it into support, it'll allow that retest into the 40 level, 0.0040, and that's what I would be eyeing for that. BNB took out that resistance and now is starting to march high. So this KCS are two of the ones that are outperforming Bitcoin. And that's why I talk about Q4. There will be some outliers, but then you're going to have a host, and I believe the majority underperform. That's why BTC and ETH are the majority, and then you swing trade alts. At least that's my approach, and that's what's gotten me here to stay consistent and true to my system and process. For Binance Coin, staying above its 20 is helpful, but ultimately, you know, it can bounce off that 50 to remain in a bullish structure and bullish time frame. It's long from all point of views, and just continuing to march forward. ADA hasn't performed. It was earlier in the 2021 cycle. It's now in the bearish phase. It really needs to hold this 2,658 Satoshi range. If it doesn't, then it just continues to move down. And this has historically traded even at 2,000 sats. Keep that in mind in trying to buy falling ice. If you are a Cardano backer and supporter, you really want to wait for this to bottom, accumulate in a sideways range, and then have the meeting of the moving averages unfold for it to outperform. Because right now, you're just buying hope if you try and buy this now. There's not enough things that match up to enable it to be bull trend. Luna last week had violated where the 50 and the 200 were, but you had price really right around it. So as the smart money algo signal comes through with a close above 7,455 sats, that enables this to go long, and then taking out this horizontal at 8,500 sats allows it to really move into this discovery range and ultimately try and eclipse to 10,000 sats. You have volume to the upside, and this looks to be strong. Okay, looking at Doge, you have Doge making a small move here into resistance. To me, this doesn't tell me that the downward trend is broken yet. I need price to come and test that 200 here at 420 sats, fail, move sideways, and then get a confluence of price, the moving averages, and then a long signal from Smart Money Algo. So I don't have that yet, and if it doesn't match up with my parameters, I have to look for more opportunities. Okay, this is what I've been talking about, and I think for my third update in a row, and it's starting to gear up, and I really like what I see here. So the long is confirmed with price closing above 55 sats. You are right there right now. This allows the 50 to cross above the 200, get price in the bullish phase, and then make a lift into the 60 sat range, and then ultimately really come and test that 70 level. And that's, I think, where this makes its move to, from say 53 sats now to 70. As long as it stays above, let's call it 49 sats. It could bounce as low as 50, 49 sats, but if we start closing in that 48 and below, this potential trend change will not be valid. And I remember seeing this earlier in the year, and right now with the close above $9 even, this is long, and it comes up and tests where there's some resistance here, takes it out. But look, you can see the wicks tell you that the selling pressure was a little bit stronger, and that's why you've got that volume to the downside. Come and retest. And look, when you've got the retest of price, the 50, the 200, and you're long, those are great entry opportunities. And so this came down into that $8 range to give you another chance after going long. Now, it didn't even tell you to get out. It just said, hey, you had to pull back after the first time breakout. That allows cyan trend to be above zero and make its move. Getting this to close above 960 here, and that's kind of where we are right now. Over, say, the next two candles, that'll be important to propel this into that 10 plus $10.50 range. Here's one that I'm trading a small position with, and the reason why I liked it was I had the flattened out 200 starting to rise. I had volume to the upside. This is a sell-off here due to the fact that you had some historical price action in that range. So as long as it stays above that 20 and ultimately right around here, that 0.021 level, I believe this should come and test that 30 level again and continue higher. So this is a short-term opportunity. Okay, looking at this chart, it really had done extremely well. The secret network since going long at the beginning of September, you've got a 200%, 250% move in this, now coming to test its 200. As long as it stays above support at 10,450, this could possibly consolidate sideways and make another push higher should it have some fundamental catalyst. I don't know enough about what this project is aiming to do, but if it stays above that 10,400 level, it can remain long. However, you've got to take into note that you've got a decreasing cyan trend with the oscillator potentially giving you a warning sign. So it offers risk to reward when you have those things, but I don't know if there are any fundamental drivers to push this higher. KCS was just like BNB in regards to the fact that it's continuing to ride it. I actually like this chart better because of the channel it's built, and all it has to do is if it takes out, say, this diagonal line you were to draw up in here, then you would say, hey, this run has made its move, it needs to consolidate and move sideways. But until further notice, the 50 is acting as the thrusting point for this to continue its trek higher. And when you've got a move from the long coming in at 2,420 sats, you've got a 2x almost, let's call it 170% to the upside from the end of October to now. That is a really nice move. Just staying above that 50, staying in a channel, if you want to build up a channel here. You're looking at Theta token, and this had a really strong beginning of the year. It's starting to now give you, hey, is this long, short? Is this a trend change? What do I see happening here? So for these people looking to stay this long, the course, it needs to trade above $6.72, 73 cents. So it's really right there. And then for the downside, it needs to stay above $6.10 and ultimately 583. It takes out that 583. It's going to go find more volume at $5 a share. So this one is starting to gear up, but you got to understand it's going to have some overhead resistance in its way. Look at a lot of this price action in here. I think that this one, you've got to have it move sideways for a couple more periods. Okay, so here's Caleros, and this is PNK. It's just, you've got a downward sloping 200. You've got resistance in its way. It really needs to get above 215 sats, let's call it, with a flattened out 200 before you could long this. Our Fox, this has just done tremendous since going long towards the end of October. You've got to close above 0.093. It makes a 4x move in it, and now is riding its 20 period. So this is kind of a super bull. When it rides the 20 period on an 8-hour chart, to me that signifies super bull price action. Ultimately needs to stay above right here where that last breakout happened. So 21 cents, and it's still above there at this point in time. This chart has just been parabolic with volume to the upside. So make sure you take profits on something like this if you have it, and then let some of the position run to the upside as well. There's one very similar to RFox riding that 20 period right now, and it right now is trading a little bit below it. So you've got to give it to this 588 level to know that it's exhausted. But ultimately, it's got to get back above $7.20, and It's very far away from its 200, so I wouldn't chase this at this point in time. You know, that breakout above $5 was pretty legit. You've got a 30% move to the upside off the 5 on volume. Okay, so Haven Protocol made a huge move up, and then you've kind of got this cascade down. Ultimately, it needs to stay above support of $9. It's above that, and if you want to look for even a lower term, it's going to be like about $9.70. Because you've got this horizontal volume here where the smart money is creating its resistance. So staying above that 940 to 960 is what this needs to move higher. It's just in the warning phase right now. Okay, looking at Loop Ring, this has made quite the move since the end of October as well. So a close above 961 sats. This has more than a 5x in it, 600%, let's just say. As long as it stays above this 20 period, it looks pretty healthy. You've got big bars up, little bars down, cascading, and staying above that 50 is what I would need for this. Cyan trend's at 16 due to that 600% move. Oscillator is at 8, so this is a really healthy looking chart. Just goes back to my philosophy of taking a little bit off the table, letting some of the position run, and then be willing to dollar cost average out on the way out. Okay, Zcash is the last altcoin we're going to look at. So Zcash had a big trend change underway. It took quite a period of time to unfold. So from the third week in October to the just about third week here in November is where that trend change underway happened. And taking out the horizontal of 3,100 sats is what pushed it higher. And now it's trading below its 20 period moving average. And I think this just needs to consolidate sideways for a few periods in time and stay above 4,000 sats for this continue and make a march to 5,000 and above. You've got volume pushing it there. That's what this needs to have happen, and look at it from a level by level basis. So for the downside, the level would be there. The next downside would be there. So staying above that 50 is really where I'm looking at. Here's one I brought to our attention a few shows ago. This, you've now got a bullish engulfing candle. Going to open up the market here in about a half hour. I think it comes and tests eventually this 46 level, which is where you've got some overhead supply. So I think a move from 42 to 46 is what's in the cards next for this, and you're almost getting this in the bullish phase on the daily, so that's pretty powerful. Looking at this wisdom tree, looks like this is a large cap, probably S&P 500 fund. But when you just look at this from the chart perspective, this is just a giant channel. It's built over a long period of time. So this is most likely a HODL ETF for you. And you just want to ride this. As long as this stays above support of 45.78, this is going to continue marching with the money printer that's happening worldwide. It just looks to continue its march higher. You're looking at Casper Sleep. I've got a long that's starting to issue here with a close above $6.79. It's not ready yet because you've got cyan trend still -3, -4, and you've got some gray bars here. So this has a breakout into resistance, but you've now got the recovery that's showing its face because you've got an upward sloping 20-day moving average. You just need to get the moving averages with price together and make it trade in that range for a period of time before it can make a move to say 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe this has a good holiday season and holiday run, but for me, I don't long this yet until I get the parameters that I trade lining up. Okay, looking at two mining stocks to close out the show. You've got this dip down happen here. This makes a move from, look at this, the moving averages here give you another re-entry. Ultimately, the long comes through at about $29, let's call it. You've got cyan trend above 1, a re-long entry here after the gray bars give it its break period, and you've got a nice upward sloping 20 period moving average. So as long as Mara really stays above its 50-day moving average at say 58, this is going to come make a move into that 58, 59 level. Same thing with HUT. This chart's a little less volatile, you know, the little staircase down, staying above at 1173 is what I'd be eyeing. Ultimately, staying above that $11 threshold is what's needed. It's going to open up right around here at 1277. It's going to use this resistance that it had from the third week of October and turn that into support. Then that allows it to make a move from, say, 1277 to eventually hit that 20-day moving average at just under 14. That should probably crest up into the 14 zone as the market opens here now in 26 minutes. All right, guys, please read the show notes today. We've got Bitcoin starting to gear up a little bit with the markets opening. I think that the recovery is still underway. Let's keep our eyes to the street, and I will update you on anything pertinent. If you want to discuss anything, put it in the show notes below or send an email to me at altcointrades1@gmail.com. I'll add all the requests in for the next update. Thank you.